Hey everybody, welcome back. It was only a few seconds and you were offline and now you're back to another stream here on the CAF Plus channel. It's a wonderful night and we already have had one show in the books, started at 8 o'clock. It was the IC3 show with the artist bullpen, and you got to have a few commission opportunities, which I saw several of you partook in. So thank you for that. We appreciate it. Tonight we'll be talking with a good friend of mine. I don't know him as well as I should, but I think we'll all get to know him pretty well after this thing is all over. Mr. John Voytek. He is, I got to meet him in person when we were at the Columbus get together that I did. Well, I mean, it was right at the end of the pandemic. I think that was 2022, 2023. And then he was also at OAX recently last year with his wife Mary. But let me bring John in, and we'll get to learn a little bit about the man who has more collecting things in his toolkit than just comic art, right? I saw there was a guitar. You sent me a photograph, with that, and I had to use that. I thought about going all art, John,
Too
but
many hobbies. Too many hobbies, Bill.
yeah, well, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, does it stop? I mean, does that mean you're into guitars, or do you play? Is it
I
music? What?
play. I've collected guitars as well as art over the years, and which limits what I can buy. You know, you got to kind of dispense things evenly. So I think it limited what I could do with my art collection.
Well, I mean, you can hang guitars on the wall, right? So you can have a whole. Do
Yeah,
you display them?
I do not. No, I think Mary would probably throw me out with my guitars. So, I'm into antiquarian books, and I
Mhm.
like some pulp magazines. I collect those. Um, I collect a little bit of everything and way too much of everything. I'm like a jack of all hobbies, but a master of none. So,
Yeah, I mean, but you've been collecting art a while, right? I mean, it's not if you
I,
were a master of any of them, would that be kind of up there, or is there something else that is more
no,
important
art's
to you?
probably it. Comic art is really, particularly strip art, is really my thing, and which I've really just discovered recently since Columbus that
Hmm.
was what I was really interested in. I've collected art for since the '80s, but I've never maintained a collection. It was always buying something or selling something to buy something, whether it be another piece of art or a guitar, maybe even a vintage guitar.
Wow. Well, that's that get together at Columbus was kind of a pivotal moment in CAF's history, I think. I mean, it was a couple years since the beginning of the pandemic, and we were so fortunate to have the Marvel exhibit touring and in Columbus at that time. Everything just kind of came together at the right moment, and here we are 3 years later. We've had a couple of OAX shows in the books, and the team here has grown. But I'll be honest, that that weekend in Columbus really kind of changed my thinking about, like, what could be done. What things I might enjoy being a part of, going forward. And it was just great putting on an event like that and having such a good turnout. I mean, I know it was like probably the first thing that a lot of us did socially, because it was, I mean, I don't remember what month it was, but it was really the first get together that I had with anybody after the pandemic had started.
I think that was like in August or something, wasn't it? The weather was pretty warm
It
then.
was nice. Yeah, I know I didn't wear a jacket. So yeah, it was probably late summer. But again, it was so much fun. We had what, like 40 collectors showed up for that. We had, I
Right.
mean, Berkey and Anthony actually, well, Berkey didn't have to drive too far. Anthony did. But people made the trip to come out. Heck, you had, Simon come down from Got Superpowers, and you had Glenn Crane was set up. I mean, what a
Right, right.
that was so, I mean, I had never met Glenn before. I'd emailed with him before. Heck, I admired his signature auction. And then and then he showed up and sat, basically had a table. And it was all,
Well,
we didn't charge anything. It was just fun.
I'll tell you a funny Glenn Crane story. He purchased an Al Williamson Secret Agent Corrigan single panel strip that was beautiful at that show, and I had looked at it, and it was pricey. And when I went back, they said it just sold, and he pointed to him and he goes, "That's the guy that bought it." And here he had shown it to me, and that's how I met him for the first time, was at that show. And surprisingly, he's gotten rid of that strip. He no longer has it. And
Wow.
it
Well,
kind of shocked me that that
I
even
remember that one too. Well, once you have a signature auction, you kind of probably don't have the same, you covet things a little bit differently, maybe in
right.
a way, because I mean, Glenn has certainly had a lot of art go through his hands. I've tried to interview him. He's not ready to like get on camera on a solo interview. We've had him on a group show once before, but he's an interesting guy. I mean, as far as collectors go, um, I mean, once you've had a signature auction for yourself and you've still been collecting for another 5 or 6 years, I mean, that says something about you. You thought maybe he was getting out of the hobby, right? Because he has
Right.
that.
Well,
No,
I
he.
met a lot of great collectors. He just stood out because he was very knowledgeable,
Hmm.
and of course he has an amazing collection.
Yeah, no, without question. But all that aside, let's talk about you. So we've got guitars as part of the hobby. We've got comic art, and you just said that you started collecting art in the mid '80s. So what kind of art at that time were you collecting? Because it sounds like you eventually found that comic strip art was really where your passion was most rested. But when you were first buying art, what kind of art were you buying, and from if it was comic or strip related, what titles?
Well, it was kind of a weird thing. I was still heavily into comics. I'd gone to the Art Institute when I graduated from high school. I went to Pittsburgh the Art Institute of Pittsburgh,
Hmm.
and I was there a few years after Paul Gulacy had graduated from there. So being interested in comic art, everybody wanted to talk about Gulacy, and which was a pretty cool thing because I love Master Kung Fu. Like that run
Hmm.
in the '70s was like one of my favorite things ever that he had done, and so that was pretty cool. But what happened was when I went off to college, my mother bagged up my comic collection and either donated it or threw it away. So I had to hit a restart. And fortunately for me, things like Love and Rockets and American Flag and The Rocketeer and all this incredible stuff started popping up. And I felt like I had a chance to kind of restart collecting.
Hmm.
And so I got into a lot of the independents. And I still like, I still have fond memories of like Miller's Run on Daredevil and Barnes X-Men, of course. And although I did favor the Cochran X-Men, I got into
Same
it
here.
from, yeah, I love that original run. Like my favorite issue, I think, is that Sentinel issue, that 99, I believe it was. So that was like one of my favorite books at the time. But anyway, fast forward to the 80s. Um, I was going to a comic shop in East Pittsburgh, and it was probably my first exposure to original art. I had taken comic books down to trade, and he had a bin of like I didn't even know what it was. So I started looking through it, and then it hit me like, yeah, this is original art. And I ended up trading him some comics for everything he had. And what he had was Tom Grinberg did a Golden Age Fury story for like Secret Origins. And Tom Grinberg was really good friends with Bill Boychelle, who had owned his store. So I traded for a complete Golden Age Fury story by Grinberg. I traded for a Dave Cockrum beautiful Black Widow commission. And then the third thing I got, he had 165 whopping dollars on it, was a cover to Daredevil 160 by Frank Miller.
Wow.
So I was like, wow, this is a pretty good start to collecting original art. And there was something else in there too. So I had a little mini collection going there, and wasn't sure how far I was going to pursue it, but I'd gone to a Pittsburgh convention, and this was kind of a bummer. I met Bill Sienkiewicz there, and I was like, let's keep this Daredevil Black Widow thing going because I love that. And the fact that I had a Cochran, a great Cochran Black Widow, I had that cover to 160, the famous blow dryer cover, where Bullseye is strangling the Black Widow,
Hmm.
and it's a great cover. I mean, the only thing I didn't like about it was the Daredevil head, which they had printed in red on the cover. It was on a
Hmm.
piece of vellum, and I
Ah.
a hard time figuring out how I was going to attach that thing, and once I mounted and framed it. But so anyway, I go to this convention and I meet Bill Sienkiewicz, and I was a fan of his just from Moon Knight. I always loved Neil Adams, and I thought he was like the second coming of Neil Adams.
He was.
When Neil Adams,
Time.
right. And those Moon Knight stories are just amazing. So anyway, I go up to meet this guy, and commissions are $200. And, or no, wait, I'm sorry. I don't know how much commissions actually were, but I had $200. I either sold something or whatever. I had $200. So I go up and his agent's there, and I tell him, hey, I have $200. He says, what do you want drawn? And I said, Daredevil, Elektra, and a Black Widow. And he looked at me and he didn't say much, and he bent down and said something to Bill. But Bill looked at me like I had two heads, and started drawing it. And he did this really disappointing ballpoint drawing, man. It looked like he did it in like less than a minute. I mean, it was good, but after getting a Daredevil cover and a complete story for like $100 and a Daredevil cover for 165, this was a big letdown. So for the
Was this
longest time,
first convention sketch you ever paid for?
yeah. And for
Yep.
the longest time, I was not a Bill Sienkiewicz fan.
Well,
Because I thought, man,
there's a lot of there's reasons why some artists don't like to sketch at shows.
well,
I mean,
here's the deal. I figured out it was my fault. He'd have probably done a great drawing of Daredevil for $200, or a great drawing of a Black Widow, or a great drawing of Elektra. I think he thought I was getting a little greedy. For $200, I wanted 3 characters.
right.
But anyway, I added that.
He didn't know it was your first time. That's
my very first.
you figure Bill's probably been to hundreds of shows at this point, and he's seen it all, and it's when I first started going to shows, convention sketches and commissions were my thing too, and I can tell you I made a lot of mistakes. I had a lot of eye rolls at me too, because you just don't know, right? You walk up to an artist and you're like, I got $500. I want the X-Men, these 5 characters on top of a Smash Sentinel. And I'd said that to one artist, and I thought $500 was a lot. And he kind of looked at me and said, I don't like to be over directed. And I was like, oh, so he's turning down my $500. So he didn't even take it. But so the thing is, that would have been in like my first year of collecting, and but it was those things that happened to me that helped me better understand, how to interact with artists and eventually agents and those sorts of things. Because you don't know, if you don't have friends who've been doing it and you're going in blind, you don't know when you're going to make a mistake or get yourself into some kind of trouble.
Well, here's the thing too. I don't know if it's just proprietary to the Pittsburgh area, but the comic shops to this day have no respect for original art. Like there's multiple comic shops in the Pittsburgh area, but you can walk in any one of them, and you're really lucky if you see a piece of original art. They just have no interest in it, and never did.
The show that they had in Pittsburgh always had a lot of great artists. That I mean, I don't even remember I don't remember what the name of the show was. I got some posters still laying around.
Well, the Steel City Con, and then there was
That's
the one in
City. It wasn't
Monroeville.
that one. It was the one I think that was in the fall every year. George Perez was always at it.
It was in Monroeville.
Monroeville, that's the one. Yeah.
Right. At the Expo Center, right.
I know they later had issues, but as far as like a show that had a lot of great creators at it, the Monroeville show was pretty awesome. I mean, the layout was great. The artists were all on the outside of the wall. I mean, because at that point I hadn't gone to like Heroes and things, and for me that was like kind of heaven, because you could see. I think I first met like Craig Rousseau there. Gosh, can't even remember all the artists. I think it's where I first met Adam and Allison. As well. Joe Linsner sat up there a lot.
Jim Starlin did that show a few times.
Starlin too, right? Exactly. Right. It was good. So it's surprising that the shows, or with all that art that was going, at least through that area, that the shops didn't have a lot of, at least stragglers, right? A few pages on the wall.
But the thing was, it would be people like myself that would roll in and take an interest in the original art. But it seemed like there wasn't any people that I knew that really collected it. It was like you were like operating in kind of a bubble or silo, at that time, if you collected original art. So I think with me, that's why the bulb kept coming on and going off with me with original art, is because I could find nobody to talk to about it at that time.
Yeah.
I was buying the Comics Buyer's Guide. I was looking through it, looking for original art at the time. And, every once in a while you'd see something that would catch your interest. But usually by the time you contacted the dealer, it was gone. I
Mm,
remember, I think it was Russ Cochran that advertised that Frazetta Famous Funnies cover, the one with the octopus, the Buck Rogers one.
yeah.
And I think it was like $28,000. This was back in the 80s. And I remember tearing that page out and just keeping the page. It just blew me away. I could not believe how amazing Frazetta's ink work was. Because up until then, I think my only exposure to him was the Conan paperback covers. And I think I got a hold of a trade paperback on his art that had like his best paintings in it or something. I had
Right.
no idea that, he even did ink work at the time.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what you're describing, I think a lot of collectors go through, right, is not having anybody to share the hobby with, and it makes
Yeah.
it a little bit difficult to stick with it. I think, um, pre-internet, which of course you started in the mid '80s. Uh, yeah, if you don't have any, friends close by that are collecting art, it's kind of it would be a lonely hobby to have, John. I mean, at least with your guitar, you can pick it up and strum it, and it feels
Oh yeah.
there's something there. But yeah, comic art back in the mid '80s and even into the early '90s, there just really wasn't anything. There was no base, and again, no friends makes it really difficult. But yeah, I think that that's one of the things early on, even when CAF was out there, I'd see people or hear those kind of stories, and people would just kind of fall out of the hobby because they enjoyed it, but then they're like, how can I enjoy this thing by myself, right? And the next thing you know, they're done. So, and if and as well, people making a few mistakes, with purchases, overpaying or whatever, and then a year later they're out of the hobby. So, it's good that you stuck with it, but maybe having those other hobbies helped get you through, those moments when art wasn't speaking to you so loudly.
Exactly. Kind of fast forward to like I guess it would have been the late 80s, early 90s. Um, I started taking a little bit of an interest in Golden Age comics again.
Hmm.
And I discovered Lou Fine and Quality Comics.
Sure.
So I became obsessed with that run in Smash Comics, the Ray. And I was like hell bent on trying to hunt down a good copy of Smash 14. So I remember selling stuff to go to Philly with my brother-in-law and our son, to an art to a, it was a big convention there, and they had original art there, of course. But my main goal was to find Lou Fine art, comic books with Lou Fine. So my wife encouraged me to take some of my artwork along, because I had done some strip art, not comic strip art, but a comic book I was working on.
Hmm.
And she was like, "Go ahead and take it." She says, "Hey, they're having an art contest." She goes, "You can shout it around anyway. Like if you see anybody there that get a an opinion on what you're doing." So I took it reluctantly, and when we got there, I really had no interest in even looking at anything or showing my art or doing anything. But our son took my 2 pages up and had them judged. And lo and behold, he comes back and says, "Hey, you won." Well, the judges there were the Hernandez brothers.
Oh, wow.
So my prize was like $100 gift certificate for the show, a Bridgman's Anatomy book, and How to Draw Comics the Marvel Way. But anyway, I was complimented by them, and they were like, "Yeah, you should keep doing this." And I, for whatever reason, we had a young daughter at the time. We just had a baby, and our family was growing, and I just never did. I just kind of walked away. My interest completely in pursuing comic art was gone as an artist.
As an
So
artist.
yeah, but I continued to enjoy art, and I did get a copy of Smash 14 at that show, and I still had an interest in collecting art. There were some local shows, um, probably maybe 40, 50 miles in a small town called Washington, PA. And there was a young artist there that had brought a portfolio full of art. And he was working on a book called Maze Agency and had pages for like $10 a piece. So I bought like 20 pages off of him. And of course, it's Adam Hughes.
Yep.
And I was like, wow, this kid is amazing. I just could not believe how good he was. How effortlessly he drew too. So I did commission him, and I think he was charging like $25 a commission or something at the time. And he said, well, what do you want me to draw? Well, I was into quality comics, and I said, how about a Phantom Lady? And he drew this most amazing drawing of Phantom Lady for me. It was a pencil drawing, but it was like, I mean, it was a good size drawing for $25 and finished pencils. But it wasn't the Golden Age Phantom Lady. It was the modern one with
Yep.
like
Yep.
squared off glasses, because he liked her better. So that's the one he drew. So it was kind of a mixed thing, but it was such a beautiful drawing but I knew he was going to be great. I mean, I loved that comic, Maze Agency. I just thought it was so good.
Maze Agency was a lot of fun. Yeah.
Yeah, I think Kamiko put it out, and I bought a bunch of pages from the one. It was an issue where Jennifer Mays had shown Gabe that she had the sports car parked in this garage, and that's what they ran around in that issue. So this was the whole sequence with her showing the sports car, and then they were trying to solve a case in that issue. But I had a bunch of pages, and like I said, he was selling them dirt cheap.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then of course he went on to Justice League and bigger things, and became really famous. So
Yeah. Well, he was clearly incredibly talented even at that point. I mean,
right.
the agency artwork was beautiful, and yeah. But that was like for me that was a fun period in comics. I mean, Justice Machine was coming out, Elementals was out there. You were seeing ads in both, Maze Agency for Justice Machine and vice versa, and yeah, no, that was that I think I bought more comics in that that like 4-year window, because I love American Flag, Love and Rockets. I didn't read any Ninja Turtles though,
Me
but
neither. Me
I
neither.
don't know why that never appealed to me. But I guess if I was buying comics, those would have been the valuable ones to get, because you can buy the stuff that I was buying still pretty cheap today.
Well,
But
Willingham's run on Elementals was amazing.
oh my gosh,
There were 4 issues, I think, that dealt with a vampire that
yeah.
were like in the teens,
Yeah,
like 17, 18, somewhere in there. I love those stories. I thought those were incredible.
yeah. Bill was yeah. I mean, again, he's still my favorite creator to this day. I
Now,
just
have
love.
you ever met him?
Gosh, have I? I think I got to say hi to him once at a Hero Initiative event. Um, Gosh, I think it was probably like 18 years ago at San Diego. So I think, and I might have only seen him at one other show than that. So I really, didn't get to see him in the 80s when I really admired what he was doing. And
Right.
by the time I think when I met him, he was already doing Fables and a few other things. So no. And I remember even asking, I think I was able to get a drawing through Hero, and I remember asking, would he do something Elementals, and they were like, nah, he doesn't like to talk about Elementals. It's
Really? Wow.
and it's like, and and those are the things that, as a collector who's, a little bit out of the loop, you hear stuff like that, and it makes you like wonder. It's like, all right, there's probably a lot of stories out there that are better left not talked about, or asked about. So I never really even sought Bill out after that, just because I felt like, well, I'll never get an Elementals character drawn by him. And at that point, his drawings just didn't have the same quality as that mid 80s sort of feel that he had, that carried over from his work with TSR, and Dungeons and Dragons stuff, and then coming over into
Right.
doing Elementals, Villains and Vigilantes with Jeff D. That was just a wonderful, wonderful time to enjoy those kind of comics.
Right. Yeah, I think my divorce from comics was with the emergence of Image
Yeah.
and Valiant. And when all that stuff started coming out and all the variant covers and the foil covers and that, I just felt like I lost my connection with comics. And I really quit reading them, I think, at that point. So
Hmm.
that would have been in what, the early mid 90s, I think, is when I kind of got out of comic collecting.
Right.
Um,
Nope. At the same time, I mean, but I graduated college in 91, and I had stopped buying it like in like 90, and I didn't start reading again until after I was married, so probably around 96. So I kind of missed that whole thing. I I was coming in at the end and being like, what the heck are all these foil covers?
right,
What's this Age of Apocalypse that just, they clearly had some major impact on the
right.
X-Men universe. So, so I had to go back and buy a lot of back issues. Um, but yeah, it was I don't know, in a weird way, I probably didn't miss much because I probably wouldn't have enjoyed it, either. But I mean, I discovered new writers and whatnot that I hadn't had that weren't there or that I wasn't really interested in the 80s. Grant Morrison caught my eye, Alan Moore, and I really hadn't read anything by them because I was just reading Marvel stuff in the 80s. So that was kind of fun. At least I found stuff that I could enjoy that didn't come with variant covers. I've never been into that. As a comic book, I'm a comic book reader first. I'm not in it for the money. I'm not in it for the speculation.
Right.
And I certainly don't need to have five different covers of issue one of this new book, or retelling of the old story, whatever. It's just never been my thing. But to each their own.
I think one of my favorite areas of comics then was the painted stuff. I
Mm.
really loved what John J. Muth was doing, and Kent Williams and
Oh my,
George
yeah.
Pratt, that Enemy Ace Riddle. And I thought that those guys were like almost like a studio too, where you had Rayson Kaluta and Barry Smith and who am I missing? Rayson Kaluta Smith.
Jeff Jones.
Jeff Jones was, yeah. I thought that these guys that were doing the painting stuff could have did their own studio. They were just doing such amazing work then. And Muth was like one of my favorites.
I know, and it
I
was
love
weird to see Marvel
Moonshadow.
publish that stuff too. I mean,
Yeah,
yeah, it was cool, and I didn't understand it all at the same time, but it was great though. It was trying to show you things that comics could be, and
right.
at that
Right.
point, Marvel was pretty experimental. I mean, in that regard. But yeah, I mean, it was during that period where I first discovered Muth and certainly Pratt as well. I mean, it's yeah.
Yeah, I've always loved Enemy Ace. And then when he did that, I thought it was a completely different take on it. It respected what Kubert had done, but it has its own place in comics history now. I
Hmm.
mean, that was a singular great piece, I thought, and I got a chance to talk to him a little bit about it at OAX, which was nice. But and I saw a few nice Enemy Ace commissions come out of OAX this past year.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, there was some fantastic commissions. I mean, I ended up getting a Wolverine Natsuki from him, but just seeing a couple of the Enemy Ace pieces, Peter Rowe got a really nice Enemy Ace commission. There were a few others, and I know we're actually going to be announcing his commissions soon. I think I got a kind of preview of the list, so he's back for more. I mean, he had such fun last year. It's just enjoyable to get to work with someone who's kind of got that tenure in comics. He's an educator, he teaches at Ringling, and still just I mean, and he's he's done plein air painting, all that stuff. He's just an amazing guy all around, and uh, it was fun getting to see some of the video clips and whatnot from the last show in January. Just seeing him, show his commissioners the artwork that they got and how happy they were. And yeah, I mean that's like one of the best joys that I get from OAX, is just knowing how much fun and mutual respect the artists have with the collectors and vice versa, and
Right.
getting to see just the thrill of getting to pick up art like that. But yeah, but back to Kubert. Yeah, you've Joe. He's one of my favorite artists. Who I can only one of these days I will have a Hawkman page by him. But there's a lot of war art out there, and and I love it. I love it for the technique and the style.
Hmm.
If I have to have a Hawkman page, those are a little hard to come by right now. They're getting kind of pricey.
They are. They are. You don't see them pop up as much anymore. For a while there, it seemed like you
Mm.
could pick. You had a choice of which one you wanted, but not anymore. And they are so beautiful. That Brave and the Bold run in
Oh my
particular
goodness.
was just stellar, amazing stuff.
Yeah, when in the beginning of the pandemic, one of the early dueling dealers shows, Mike had a page that was just great, and it was $6,000. I don't think it sold. Did it sell during the show? I don't know. Either way, I could have bought it because it came, but I was like, $6,000. That's there's a ton of $6,000, great Kubert, Hawkman pages from Brave and the Bold. Now it's like, you're not going to touch one of those for less than 9,500 or ten
Oh
thousand five
yeah,
hundred or $14,000.
you
I blew it.
blinked, you blinked, and they went to 10 grand.
Right. It
Yeah,
just
it was
it literally
amazing.
it was like the Kirby Thors for, at the beginning of the pandemic, you could get them for like $4,000, 3,500 still. And then within a year and a half, by 2021, every page was like $5,000. And I remember, like Albert Moy he had like 5 Kirby Thors that were all priced $3,500 or less on his website in 2021. And I kept thinking, I'll get one. Now I get one, and then somehow it was just like boom. Everybody realized that the Kirby market was going crazy, and then the next thing you knew, like they were all sold. And Albert was like, I could have sold them for twice as much, and it's like, how did this happen? I mean, it was such an odd time. Good for I guess good for artists and good for collectors who held on to that stuff. But yeah, that just shows you how what 5 or 6 years can do for in a hobby like this, because literally the 15-20 years before that, it was pretty stagnant. I mean, stuff did not appreciate by 10% every year, and that during that one window, everything was going up by 100, 200, 150%, and or more for the choice material. So anyway, but I still will make a Hawkman page by Kubert a reality somehow, some way. It's
You
gonna
will,
happen.
you will.
I
I'm
may have
sure.
to trade something for it. I've never traded like high level art, but I would probably take one of my X-Men pages and trade it for a good Joe Kubert Hawkman page, because I mean, uh, I, I I have a portfolio full of published X-Men art. They're not all Cockrams and stuff like that, but I have some decent stuff. That's probably the route I'm going to have to go. Have you ever done a lot of trading in your time in the hobby?
Way too much, way too much. And like I always felt like whatever I traded, I wish I would have kept. I had I bought one of the first dealers I think I ever bought off of was Anthony, and he had a bunch of pages from Tomb of Dracula from issue 3 to 9. And that was where they had just introduced Rachel Van Helsing and like that vampire hunter team had
Hmm.
formed with Frank Drake and Taj. And they were running around there chasing Dracula around London. And I had 2 or 3 pages from every issue. And I'm talking prime pages. In fact, I had her introduction where she gets out of the Rolls Royce with Taj and Big Ben's in the background. There's the fog. I had those 2 pages, sequential pages, then introduce those characters. And man, I kicked myself for getting rid of those because the last time I saw, they were on CAF, but it was a collector like in Germany that had them, and
Hmm.
now they're gone. They're not even on CAF anymore. So I'm like, yeah, I'll never see those again. Um,
Right.
and so I had an interest in Tomb of Dracula, and I got rid of those. And I really wish I would have hung on to those. I had a bunch of Nova pages from issue 3 and 4, particular issue 4 where he fought Thor, and it was Tom Palmer inking Sabishima.
Yeah.
And man, wow, what a combination! That issue is incredibly drawn and inked. And I thought Palmer just did such a good job, like taking Sal's art up to another level. But and it was like by no accident, I'm sure, that issue 4 of a space hero, that he would fight Thor like as an homage to Silver Surfer 4.
Of course.
But yeah, and I love that book. And that was another one I had and I got rid of. I had a bunch of Starlin Warlock pages I got rid of, which they were all good stuff. I mean, really, really cool really trippy art that
I
Starlin
love
did.
that Starlin Warlock era. I mean, that's my favorite. If I were going to own anything, I've never had a published or unpublished piece by Starlin, but if I were to own anything, it would be a Warlock page because it was so trippy. I think you had Lealoa inking him on some of that, and I love Lealoa's inks. So yeah, I mean that's as collectors, I mean you're never at a loss of things that you don't have or wish you owned, right?
Right,
You could
right.
fantasize about owning. There's probably at least I could have a wish list of 50 things on it, so I always have goals and targets and things, and it's always fun when something pops up on CAF or maybe on Comic Art Live in a few weekends, or if something shows up on Heritage, and you're like, dang, that's something I have to I have to at least make a play for. Doesn't happen often because with the prices being what they are, but it's still fun to have goals and dreams in a hobby like this where things are usually out of reach with the good stuff.
So you can tell from our conversation that I never really quit collecting art. It just was like a washing machine. I just kept churning through art, and it would come out the other side and turn into either a guitar or a different piece of art.
Sure.
And so I never really lost interest in it. And when CAF started, I became a member in 2008, and I
Hmm.
always looked at it. From that point on, like I was constantly looking at what was being posted and what I'd be interested in. But I gotta say, what really ignited it was a good friend of mine, John Mitchell. He's a guy that lives locally here near me, and he's a big Barks Don Rosa collector. He got me back into original art really with a birthday present back in 2010. He bought me the IDW Rocketeer book, which had Dave Stevens' entire Rocketeer, all the original pages, and
Hmm.
I was like, wow, look at this. So I was thinking, well, I should start buying some pages again, maybe get back into it. And then I got shell shocked and realized how much everything had gone up. And I was like, well, you know what? They're coming out with more of these IDW books. Let me just sit here for a little bit and collect these. And I bought the Romita books. I got the remarked with the John Romita drawing in it. And then I got the second Romita one, and it has a drawing in it. I always went for the higher tier stuff, not the basic issue of the book, but something that was remarked or whatever. And it wasn't really until the pandemic that I was sitting on a stationary bike watching CAF. I was like, I got to get back into this. And I don't know what drew me to strip art, but I started looking at it. I don't know if you guys had talked about it on a show more.
Hmm.
Maybe you had a Jeff Sing like collector on that talked about
Oh,
strip.
that's true. We had a really great interview with Jeff early on. I mean, he was like one of the first 12 to
And
15
it may
interviews
have
we
very
did.
well been Jeff.
Yeah.
But I was sitting on a stationary bike and I started thinking about strip art. And somebody had talked about the Cisco Kid and Salinas. And I
Hmm.
was like, who is this? And here I started digging into it and looking at what was available online. And I think Cool Lines had the biggest selection of Salinas art at the time, but no prices. And I was like, well,
Yeah.
what is this stuff worth? What is it selling for? And there really wasn't a whole lot out there other than what they were offering. So I think I emailed Rich about a particular strip, which I think you're going to show tonight. Um, and he came back with a price, and I was like, whoa, that's like a lot of money. And I was thinking, how can I get this piece of art without forking out that much money? And I was like, well, I know he really likes color art. So I ended up buying a page off of Anthony for a third of what he was asking for the Selena strip. And I contacted him and I said, hey, would you consider doing a trade? And he was like, well, what do you have? So anyway, I sent him a scan of it and he was like, yeah, I could probably do something. He goes, but you're going to have to give me some cash with that too. So I ended up putting a little cash out and I got that first Selena strip that I really wanted. And I think it's one of the best examples of his work ever. And it's the one with, no, it's not
Not
that
this
one.
one.
Not
See, I
that
knew
one.
I was going to pick the wrong one.
Well, that one has a good story behind it too.
Why don't you
I
tell me this story, and then we'll find the better one later.
All right, I got this one off. Well, actually, we're calling the other one the better one. It's just my favorite.
Okay.
I got this off of Tom Ward, and he contacted me and said, "Hey, I know you're into Salinas and Cisco Kid. Would
Mm-hmm.
you be interested in looking at a couple of strips I have?" And at that time, in particular, the character Red Flower, who's a Native American princess who's on this strip, um, that character in particular I liked because she's on the other strip as well. And when he sent me this scan, I was like, wow, that's like an early appearance. This has to be from like the first few months of the strip. And sure enough, it's the second storyline. And it's actually her third strip appearance. And that middle panel, I've gotten so many people who have complimented me on that one. His inking is just off the chart. It's amazing what he could do.
Yeah, it's stunning. And I did see what the other one is. I understand why the other one is, you know, if you had a favorite, I could see why. But this is gorgeous too. I love the use of the whiteout for the, the design in his shirt. That's so it's so smart and it looks great. You wouldn't I mean, how did he get that, that tight detail in it like that is amazing.
And
But
I think somebody pointed
gorgeous.
this out before, but he did 1,700 strips roughly. And every single strip where Cisco wears the shirt in every strip,
Thank you,
he
Marcus.
hand painted that in. There was like no template for it or anything because obviously the characters at different angles, different sizes. So he actually had to figure out this pattern and hand paint this in every single time for
He knew what
the
he was
trip.
getting himself into. I mean, it's he asked for it. But
Well,
I mean, at the end of
it's like the guy that designed the Jack of Hearts costume, and then everybody else had to draw it.
and
It's the
he's
same thing.
laughing. We have a few Jack of Hearts fans in the audience. Number one Marvel fan, Tom. He's a huge fan of
Cool
Jack of Hearts.
character. Cool
Yep,
character.
an
Yeah.
interesting guy. But yeah, I mean, again, looking at this, I mean, the inking on it's just it's gorgeous. I mean, it's so simple yet so well executed. I mean, just the way he's handling the hat, her hair. Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah, the second panel in particular, the way his hair is coming out from under his hat, at the top of that, that's just, I mean, such a subtle touch, the hand and everything. And yeah, he was amazing. And he worked so far ahead. He just really had he kind of reminds me of like the way Adam Hughes works. He can just fire this stuff out, sit down on the drawing board and just draw. And I think Salinas was the same type of artist.
Well, yeah, no, that's amazing. So the good news here is you've given everybody some advice on how to make a deal with Cool Lines. Sometimes you have to know what they like.
Yeah,
Rich loves X-Men. Uh,
right.
Steve does have a thing for painted art and certainly a lot of other things as well. But sometimes you have to be smart. Don't go in there with just your cash. I mean, know what they like to collect and it's hard to get them to like trade up because they have so much, but sometimes you get lucky.
Yeah, and I've gotten a few things of them off of them over the years, and it's been trade. Some of it's been cash, straight
Mhm.
cash, and I'm not one to like take no for an answer. So I think I kept coming back with a different approach every time, and maybe and it's just catching a person on the right day too. And I think that's true with any dealer. I think
Right.
you catch Mike on the right day, you can get a better deal than you thought. You catch Anthony's really easy to deal with. I think he's a really good soft-hearted dealer. He's the kind that if he knows you really want something, I think he'll bend over backwards to try to make it happen. So and I bought a lot off all those guys over the years.
Oh yeah. No, I mean anybody's who's been in the hobby for as long as you have or I have. I mean, I bought plenty of stuff. Like who haven't I bought things from? I was just gonna say Bashara, but I bought like three pieces from Bashara. I don't
I
know.
bought stuff off of him as
Yeah,
well.
Pete
Yeah.
Cott, I've actually never bought anything from. Hans. I've never gotten anything, but again, it's not like I haven't looked because you either go on their websites, you see them in San Diego. I mean, they always have great stuff. It's just trying to find the right stuff. I mean, the fun thing is a lot of dealers just kind of have their, what they're good for, right? Like
Right,
it's
right,
pretty
right.
eclectic. He'll have European art right beside, studio artists, right, and right next to Bruce Timm. So Albert's kind of all over the board, but you kind of know what to expect, and so if you're into that, Albert's booth is like always a good place to stop. But
I
Berkey's
I
big.
I had a hard time getting away from Albert's booth at OAX. I spent so much time in that corner of the room
Hmm.
looking through his stuff. Yeah, he had a lot at that show that he didn't post on his website, which differentiates him a little bit from like Anthony gets his stuff up pretty quickly when he gets
Yeah.
stuff in, and Mike's good about that too. Of course, with Mike, there are piles and piles of art at his house, as you know, and I don't think you'll ever get through all of that and get it. It's just
No,
big.
he needs he needs a, I don't know what the word would be, but yeah, he needs some support. I'm looking forward to going by his place this holiday season. Let's just let's put it that way, because it's like Christmas going in there and just going through the stacks, just seeing what you might turn up.
Yeah,
But he
you seem to
it's
always come
funny.
back with something good.
I can dig through those and literally hold something up, and I'll be like, Mike, what the heck is this thing doing in here? And it'll be a whatever. It'll be a John Buscema Fantastic Four page. He's like, oh, is that the page? Blah blah blah. Oh yeah, I know it's over there. Just put it back where you found it, Bill. You know, he just likes to let everything kind of ferment and and age with character. I don't know. I've never quite understood it, but that's he does seem to know where most things are, or I don't know. But at any rate, I should videotape my next experience over there in
Right.
December. He needs an intervention, CJ says. That's a good way to put it, CJ. An intervention by several collectors to come in and just kind of help him out. But yeah, at any rate, yeah, I get you. But like Marcus says, Bill buys from Glenn. I don't think I've ever bought anything from Glenn either. Nor will. I mean, at the end of the day, both those. I wouldn't say Glenn's kind of all over the price range, but like Will has a lot more expensive stuff. I don't know. End of the day, I just haven't. They're definitely an area of collecting that I feel like I have enough of right now anyway. But back to us, John. So you hung out at Albert's booth for a while. Did you buy anything though? Because that's really important
I
part of.
did. I did.
Oh,
I,
okay.
I bought a Milo Manara page off of him, which is actually three separate strips.
Okay.
And it is from Paperman, which was probably one of his seminal works. Came out in the early 80s, I think 82. And I sent you a scan of that. I think you might have that. Yeah. And this was kind of before he did. Well, this is right before Indian Summer, which really I took notice of his art. Um, but this story's a little drier than Indian Summer, um, but it's a cool story. It's a sweeping western. It has all the elements that you'd want in a western. So much of this reminds me of Moebius and Blueberry, and
Oh, hell yeah. I
working
mean,
on that.
it's so much so.
It's just that you can see the majesty of the wide open west there, and it's just beautifully drawn. And to get three sequential strips like that, usually, one of these strips would sell for a few grand. Um, I'm trying to think of who to do. It's not Mitch. Who's Scott Eater gets these from time to time. You'll see Manara on his website for sale, but they're usually single panels or single strips. You
Hmm.
usually don't see a sequential page. And that was a pivotal point in the story too, where she sheds her chains, and she could have done it all along. She had complete control over these guys that are transporting her to this fort, and that's part of the storyline. And she's basically showing the chief there that she had control of everything. So he finds it kind of humorous, and they kind of ride off knowing that she's going to be okay.
Well, that's so beautiful, man. Oh man. It's some.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
he was just on top of his game. You could tell he was really he came into his style, I think, with this story. I think the ape is still. I mean, you look at Giuseppe Bergman, The Adventures of Giuseppe Bergman.
Hmm.
You could tell it's modern Manara, the way what he developed into. Where you look at Genius and that stuff from the early '70s, it doesn't look that much like Manara. But by this time, he had seasoned into the artist that he could be.
Yeah, I
But
mean
but
those
I
Genius
think
pages are
he
still
could
kind
have.
of affordable though. That's the only nice thing about him. You know, I mean, I've looked at because I've wanted to get a good example by him as well. I haven't quite found the right piece yet, but because it's like you said, there's a period where his style maybe isn't refined, and maybe later it's not exactly what you're looking for, and so trying to find. I mean, this is like perfect. I mean, you know, if I would say like if I could own a Monero, what would it be? It would be something right from this era too, because he's so he's so concise in the work.
Well,
I mean,
and
he's
it's
that.
something you can hang on your wall
Yeah,
versus once he got into his neurotic stage where, click and butterscotch, it's not
right.
something that you're going to show to the family. You know,
No.
but this stuff I think was beautiful. And I think he could have drawn Frontier Comics forever if he wanted to. I mean, he could have made a living doing Western comics. They're just beautiful, sweeping storylines, and just this one, of course, ends tragically. But I mean, it's a love story. It's a love tragedy.
Man. Well, you made Albert's day, I'm sure. I heard he had a good show. I mean, we didn't get to talk much during the show, but I know he had a good time. I know he's happy to be coming back because he didn't make it to year one, so he didn't have anything to compare things to when he went there in year two. But I did hear from some friends that they picked up some big stuff from him, and that's awesome. So were you there literally for a couple hours going through because he has so much. I mean, you could spend
I
you know
was literally there for
four
a
or five
couple
hours.
hours, all 3 days. So yeah, no, I spent a lot of time there. A lot of time at. I talked to Zadok a lot. He had some really cool stuff.
I didn't even get to see his back wall. I walked
Wow.
by his that area, but I didn't even see what he brought. I hate to say it.
Yeah, I almost pulled the trigger on a Windsor McKay, and somebody beat me to it. And I'm sure they are really happy with that purchase. It was just a little out of my comfort range financially. And
Hmm.
it was our first show. Mary and I had gone to, and I knew she had some interest in buying some stuff. And, she knew what she was looking for. And I kind of knew what I was looking for. And he had a couple of panels um, that were just loose panels of Little Nemo, I think, or
Oh, that'd be cool.
and they were reasonably priced. And I think he sold them pretty quickly. When I went back, they were gone. There was a lot of things gone. He had a preliminary painting for Salem's Lot, the paperback cover, and it was a little frame prelim. But
Yeah.
when you compared it to the actual printed cover, it was super close and very reasonably priced. He had a lot of really neat stuff, and I talked to him a good bit. I had no idea that guy was an Olympic fencer. Did
Yeah.
you know that
What's that?
he was an
Was Zadok?
he was an Olympian?
Yeah.
He was. Yeah, I had no idea. And
Don't
like,
don't
so,
he's somebody you don't want to go into a sword fight with him. That's
yeah,
for sure.
definitely not. Definitely not.
Yeah, if
But
he was an
he
Olympic
was.
swimmer, that'd be something, something different. But yeah, no, Zadok is probably, he's not somebody you want to mess around with.
And a super kind guy. He was really, really good to talk to, and spent a lot of time. And I've
Hmm.
corresponded with him, about other art. I don't think I bought anything off of him yet, but I think probably down the road I eventually will because he gets the most unique stuff in.
Right, he's in New York, so he's been there for such a long time that I mean, he's well connected, right? He worked with Frank's Thorne Estate. I mean, but yeah, it's right place. I mean, a lot of so many art reps kind of got their start in and around New York City, New Jersey, that sort of thing. I mean, just proximity to the artists and the publishing that that made it work really well. That's
Right.
why I like Scott Eater's booth too. I mean, Scott, I always stop by Scott's. I bought a few things from him over the years, but he just has so much interesting material that you're not going to see from any other art dealer. And there's always something cool from the Hernandez brothers or
I was just going to say
Klaus.
that.
Yeah, you know,
Yeah,
uh,
that always draws me in every
there'll
time
be a
I see
unique
like
Kirby
Don
piece
Mayer.
there. I mean,
Right.
Scott's he's got a great eye. I mean, he's been in it such a long time. But boy, yeah, he's somebody who I really admire. Great taste, really well educated, knows a lot about the underground scene as well as things that are just high in pop culture as far as like the artworks and the artists and stuff. I mean, yeah, he's a guy who could write a book and we'd all want to read it.
Right. Right. Yes.
A
Very
little
true.
biography. I'd read that. There's not too many collector stories I'd want to know. But his, like a guy like Russ Cochran. I mean, there's people who have come through, this industry and helped shape it. Whose stories I think need to be out there because they're I think they're incredibly interesting, and we wouldn't have a hobby without many of them
Right.
taking the interest that they did and kind of curating the things that they decided to buy and sell. I mean, there's a lot of people we owe a debt of gratitude to. We can start with Neil Adams, right, for getting a lot of the artwork back to
Right.
the artist, but
Absolutely.
anyway. So I'm glad you made Albert's Day. The more I keep hearing these things about all this art selling at OAX, I don't think we're charging enough for our tables and stuff. We might have to rethink our prices for 2027.
Oh man, don't blame that on me.
No, 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 I won't say a word. But but that's the wonderful thing about the show is just knowing how well it's worked for everybody. And dealers are the ones we don't talk to a lot, right? We talk a lot with the artists because they help us with the auction and things like that. But you don't really know kind of what did Anthony sell or what did Mike sell. But I just saw Dan Goodwin in the chat mentioning he picked up two Sam Keith pieces off of Albert. So now we know of three good purchases that Albert, helped facilitate. It's all. I love hearing it. It's just
Well,
wonderful.
I'll tell you another one that
Please, yeah, fill me
originated.
in.
It originated with OAX, and I'll tell you about it when you get to it. When you pull that
Oh,
particular
it's
piece
one of the
apart.
pieces in the set.
But we
Okay.
started looking at it. Mary and I started looking at it at OAX, and I don't know that we actually would have even considered it because it was pricier. It was a pricier piece, but
Hmm.
we ended up getting it after the fact. And but it was a Mike Barkey piece. So,
Uh,
OAX is definitely what planted the seed. And
right.
I think that the coolest thing about it was reconnecting with people that I'd met in Columbus,
Hmm.
and then meeting new people like Tom Coker
Oh
and
yeah, Tom's a great guy.
oh yeah, and the deal that went down, I guess, up on the fire, the massive trade is now legendary,
Yeah.
and and then Robert Berman, I think, was a really cool guy.
Oh yeah.
He sit down and like let me look through his portfolio. He had a bunch of cool stuff, and we talked for a while. And Hydra Stacker actually
Hmm.
sit at my table. We talked during the auction, and we actually had it was my wife, me, Hydra, and the Donnelly brothers at one table, and the bidding was pretty interesting. So, but
I love it. See, I mean, it's these are the things that I love hearing. Just the interaction. Because I'm walking through that room all the time, and I'm not really looking at who's sitting at the tables and who's having conversations. But again, that's one of the great things about OAX is, like you just said, you get to reconnect with people. Um, I know a lot of collectors who've met at OAX for the first time, right? That have dealt with each other on CAF for years, and yeah, it's awesome. So you coming back? Oh,
well, we're considering it this year. I think I might have mentioned it to you. Mary and I met in October 40
that's
years
right.
ago.
Yeah.
So we had just gone on vacation to Gatlinburg Pigeon Forge to kind of celebrate. We met on Halloween. I proposed on New Year's. We get married on Valentine's Day. 5 month romance that turned into a 40-year marriage. But we were thinking of doing something next year special, and we're still trying to make plans. So if we can fit OAX in, we probably will. But that's what we're kind of focused on, trying to do something special next year.
Hey, you should. I had my 30th anniversary this year. I met my wife Maureen in July. I proposed in October, and we married just after New Year's. So it was in Vegas. So it was like a 6-month thing. It's like when you know, right? And so 30 years
Right,
later, we're
right.
still
See, it
married.
worked.
It doesn't work that way all the time, but it's
No,
worked for both of us. That's good. But hey, I don't blame you when you get to that 40 is a big number. You should definitely
right.
go on a good trip. Art can take a back seat. OAX will be there another time. But if you decide to go someplace tropical, you might be going right through Orlando. So you never know. You can kind of time a 1 day stop. But we'll still be
Bill, I'm
there.
going to
And
give you Mary's phone number. You can send her subliminal text there.
well, you just got to tell me what art she's looking for, and maybe I can line up some meetings. Like I'll talk to Berkey to set some stuff aside and be like, this is the stack that you have to show to Mary, but Mary she's got to show up at OAX on Saturday or something. Well,
Oh, okay. All right.
I know that won't work, but
Nice try
still,
though.
yeah.
That was good. That was a good plan though.
Hey, it's worth a try. But hey, the thing is, Jen, it's it was so nice getting to meet you in Columbus. Just getting to meet somebody who I really didn't, and know very. I knew your name from CAF, but it's just fun, getting to understand, the things that you were getting into at the time, because I think that was, like you said, that was around the time when you were really getting into the Western art. I think Anthony
Right.
might have had like a complete story that you were looking at, and you ended up only getting like a title page. I remember there was something going on there
Right.
that, but that's like that's the joy of the hobby, is getting to meet other people and find out what their interests are, because at the end of the day, you never know when you're going to see something that piques your interest as well, and you realize, wow, that's something else that I should get. Or it was just cool getting to meet somebody whose collection I've admired for 10 years and had no idea who they were, right? So,
Yeah, it was cool.
but
That's when you actually had a little bit of a life and you had time to sit down and talk.
that was a fun show. I remember, I think, well, James Siegel, we had, he and I had done a show or two or before that, but yeah, it's like actually getting to hang out with people whose galleries I knew, who we had done a few interviews together. I mean, I remember flexing. We were posing for photographs. It was just fun. Bill Byers was there. He's from the Columbus area. There's just so many local collectors that came.
Yeah,
Jay
and the
Giant was
Billy
there.
Ireland was a blast. It
Oh
was.
man, I want to go back. That's the only time I've been there. GalaxyCon in Columbus is coming up, and I really would like to go. I don't know if I'll be able to make it, but if I were to go, I would definitely be setting up something at the Billy Ireland again, because that was a blast,
Yeah,
and
there's
having
no
so many
reason you
collectors.
couldn't do a Columbus show, a small show, a mini OAX in Columbus again. That would be cool. And centered around the Billy Ireland, I think that
Hmm.
there's a lot of collectors that would make that trek, and it would definitely be worth it, as you know. Seeing that stuff firsthand, that much Calvin and Hobbes in one place.
That was insane.
Yeah,
That
and
that and the Jeff Smith bone art, you
oh
can't see
yeah,
anywhere else. All of that, they're unbelievable.
and
And
the
then just seeing
Caniff,
like the Prince
tons of
Valiant art that was in the just stacks and stacks of,
right.
like literally, what was that? Those pages were like, 24 by 32,
Oh,
those
they're
the Sunday
massive,
strips. They were incredible. And they were just,
right?
in flat files, just a whole wall of, like, with 15 or so in each drawer. It was crazy. I mean, no one would
Yeah,
believe the stuff that they have there.
no, yeah, and that collection just keeps growing.
Indeed. Yeah. Well, speaking of collections, we should be looking at some of your art here. We've been talking. See, an hour, John. It's gone by. I mean, an hour, and
Wow.
we've only looked at two pieces from your collection so far. But yeah. And again, I have no particular order on these, so it'll bounce around a bit. But let's see here. Why don't I just pull the things back and go right over to this first piece. So let me. I can zoom in a little bit here. So tell me about things I'd like to know is how long you've had it, because again, you're talking to, or you told everybody today that you're really getting into strip art more or less, in the last few years. But is this a newer acquisition or something you've had for a while?
Well, I've talked to Monty B. This actually came out of his collection.
Okay.
And I think with his interest in Drew Struzan and he collects a lot of Don Rosa, I think he
Hmm.
was thinning out his collection and he put this one up for sale. And I always wanted an Alex Raymond. So to get a Rip Kirby with Pagan Lee, I was really excited at the opportunity to get this piece off of him. And he was super cool about it. Like I don't think I time paid it or anything, but I think he held it for me for a few weeks or something, and I ended up sending him the money. It's just amazing. I mean, his inking, he was so good. And if you ever have the opportunity, there's an episode where cartoonist kayfabe with Jim Rugg, they and late Ed Piskor, they cover the book The Strange Death of Alex Raymond, and they talk about how he developed his brush technique and where he would actually roll his brush in the art to get a finer point.
Hmm.
And I think it's evident with like the wallpaper and some of the things he's done in this one that they really got into that technique, which I loved. How he developed this, the way to roll the brush. And I love his Flash Gordon stuff, but the space stuff just doesn't appeal to me as much as adventure strips or like the detective, this noir type, comic strip.
Well, it definitely fits, like you said, into your collection more, Western noir, gangster versus science fiction, fantasy. It's fair to say, but yeah, this is beautiful. And Texturama said Rich Danny's. I mean, I have to agree, right? I mean, that suit it's crazy. If I were to draw a suit and then put those lines in there, it would look pretty dang stupid. It wouldn't work. And the way he's handled it, just the way he's kind of pinching and pulling, the cross
Yeah.
hatching, it
Yeah.
looks
The fabric
realistic.
just
How did
bends.
he do that?
It's
I mean,
amazing. It
it is,
really
it's
is.
unbelievable. Even he's got it right down to his kerchief in his pocket. That's just amazing.
Yeah.
See, now when you have something like this, I mean, do you look at it and say, I can do better, I want more? I mean, as a collector, do you ever feel like kind of satisfied with particular artists in your collection?
Well, I don't know if I think I sent you like pairs of like strips,
Yes.
and that's kind of how I collect. One's just not enough. so, so like I think I'm still looking for a good Rip Kirby with Rip and Honey Dorian in it. This Pagan Lee character was super popular. A lot of collectors just really like her character, and so this was a no brainer when this popped up. But I'm still looking for a good one with representative of Honey Dorian, which was Rip's girlfriend, and Rip Kirby, of course, in it. So I would like to find at least one more of these down the road. But this one I would keep. I wouldn't get rid of it. And I would probably still like this one as much as the next one. But it's just how it is.
Well, let's see here. So here's one of the Caniffs you were mentioning.
Yeah, this is a
Grand
big one for
Pirates.
me too. Jeff Singh actually acquired this through Heritage, and it's part of this sequence of. It's a storyline that Caniff collectors note as like Dancing with the Dragon Lady, where Terry rescues her from some back alley thugs that are beating her up, and here he gets her to safety. And when he turns the lights on, I guess he realizes it's the Dragon Lady who he met many times, of course. And he's still a kid here, and I think he's trying to, if I remember correctly, impress April Kane. So there's this dance coming up, and he asks the Dragon Lady to teach him how to dance in exchange for saving her life, and she agrees to do it. So in this particular strip, she's saying, "Look, I'm going to go to the governor's ball with you as your date." And he's like, like he's already starting to wonder like why she wants to do that. And by the last panel, she's loading a purse pistol, and he knows she's up to no good. And you can see kind of from the dialogue that she's planning to do something at the ball. Of course, it was an assassination that she's planning, and her character is like incredible. One of the strongest characters ever created, I think, for comics.
Well, I have a few Caniffs, but none as good as this one. It's just fantastic.
Yeah, this was another one that Jeff had up for like a day, and he said if it doesn't sell, it's going back in my collection.
Jeff
So,
has a good way of putting those sales out, doesn't he? Like you just said, he'll drop like 24 pieces at a time, and he'll say something like that. If I've got a 24, 48-hour sale, and if they don't sell, I'll be just as happy not to. But the thing is, everything he puts out there are such good examples that
yeah,
if you're looking for a good example from any of those creators, you're bound to see something that you're going to want to get. I mean,
and I thought
that's
it was a
got an
pricey
eye.
piece. It was pricey, but I thought his price was fair, so I didn't ask for a discount on this.
Hmm.
I contacted him and I asked him, hey, would you be willing to do a time pay on it? Of course, he was very gracious about it. He said, take your time. I know it's an expensive piece. Um, take your time, pay it out. And I went back and looked at Heritage, and there was this one that sold in like February of that year. And by the end of the year, there was a same type of strip with 3 panels of the Dragon Lady and a few characters, and it sold for double what I paid for this one. So I thought the price was more than fair. Then, looking at that, then in retrospect, um, I'm really happy to have it. This was part of the Bobby Murphy collection too, so it has provenance to it.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, Jeff is again, he's been in the hobby for a very long time, and when stuff like this comes on the market, I mean, he knows a lot of people, so he's been able to pick up some just incredible pieces over the years, and yeah, I he could write books, on his personal collection. But anyways, congrats on this one. It's gorgeous.
Thank you. I wanted to show you too.
What's that?
These strips are like really large.
Oh my.
So
Wow.
I think when I got into strip collecting, I had no idea they drew so large. So I mean, the detail is really cool on these.
Wow. Yep, the Caniff I have is not that size.
Okay, do you have a Steve Cannon?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
I remember showing Jeff was at that same Heroes that I picked it up at, and he was like, "That's a good starter piece for you." Yeah, I'm like, "Hey, I told him that too. It's my first one. I was so happy." He's like, "Yeah, it's a good place to start, Bill." I'm like, "All right, thank you, Jeff." I mean, that's all I needed to know, that I didn't do poorly, that I had at least a decent piece to say I had. And I think that, yeah, and I still have those too, because they are hard to replace. I mean, to try to upgrade, like you said, is you're going to spend some money. And I'm just happy to have an example. I mean, Caniff influenced so many creators that,
Right.
I mean, I think everybody should have a Caniff example, no matter from what era, just because he influenced so many comic artists that came after him. People, some people had a ape Caniff to do so many other strips, because it was the Caniff style, right? I mean, so yeah, if
And
anyone in
so
the chat
many of
doesn't
those are
have one,
winding
get one.
up in museums now.
Hmm.
Like a lot of the Caniffs, it's what the museums want. And,
Right.
not just in this country, but overseas, a lot of Caniff examples go overseas and they go into museums and they're not going to be available anymore. So,
Well, here, let's take a look at this John Wayne page here, which I think is the one that's behind you, right?
it is.
So Al Williamson.
Yeah, Al Williamson and Frazetta.
Oh, and
But
oh
I had
man.
talked to another collector and they said that they didn't think there was a lot of Frazetta in this, that it's mostly Williamson. But I looked at actually a page that somebody has a war page, and the hair inking on the hair, it was strictly Frazetta, 100% Frazetta. And the way the hair is inked on the characters is really super similar to this era. This is 1950. So Frazetta was like 22, 23 years old. And I think Williamson was like 20, 21. So this is really early in the game. I mean, of course, in the next few years, they're both going to elevate their skill set to a completely different level with the EC work, and Frazetta, of course, with Johnny Comet.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a cool page, and it's a great fight sequence. So.
Oh, definitely. That fourth panel is awesome right there. I mean,
Yeah,
that's so gorgeous. Wow. Now, is that again something more recent added to your collection?
No, I actually got this off the Donnelly Brothers, and
Really?
it's been a while. Yeah, it's been a few
Well,
years.
did you pay cash or did you come up with a trade deal on this one?
I can't remember now. I think it was a partial trade.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it was a partial trade, and then some cash with it. But I did think their asking price on this, I thought, was under surprisingly what it should have been, because I've seen good John Wayne pages by Williamson go for $7,000-8,000 on Heritage recently. So,
Well, congrats. See,
thanks.
another deal.
Yeah, it's a keeper. Yeah, that's a good one.
Now I looked at that one. Well, here we go. Wow.
Okay, this is another Jeff Singh deal, and it was the first strip I got off of him. And again, I thought very reasonably priced, and it's right at that last year, 1946, when he's just about to leave the strip and go to Steve Canyon. And it's a great panel of Dragon Lady. I mean, it's worth it alone just for that one panel. And I don't know if you're familiar with the character Slits, but he's
no, but I knew, I'm a Cyclops fan, so I knew Marcus was going to shout Cyclops, so he did.
very early Cyclops appearance. Yeah, there you go.
The earliest, right here.
The earliest, right there. There it is. But anyway, great storyline, and a nice bookend for the other one, because Terry's a kid in the first strip you had shown, and by this time he's a decorated pilot,
Right.
and and an adult, and they are about to meet up again. The thing that attracted me to this strip the most was that last panel in which she said, "My nose itches." And my mom used to always say every time her nose itched, she was going to be mad about something. And then we got into a discussion on CAF about it when I posted this, and I put that up. And somebody said that no, there's a lot of meanings for nose itching. And one is you're going to meet somebody like an old friend is going to come back into your life that you haven't seen. And I said, yeah, maybe that's kind of a clever way for Caniff to say that they're going to meet up again, which they do eventually in this strip. And this is she gets violently attacked by Slits by the end of the storyline, where he's eventually killed. But there is hint that he actually assaults her, physically assaults her. And he dies, of course, at the end of this. And I'm pretty sure Pat Ryan and Terry are flying off with the Dragon Lady, and she's in the back of the plane, and she's beat up pretty bad, and they think like they're just going to let her rest. And she gets a hold of a parachute and jumps out of the plane and disappears. So it's just a really cool sequence. But that's a great panel of her. That's one of the
It really is.
larger panels of her that you're going to see in comics. Let me see. You can see it's a good sized panel.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive.
Gosh.
Beautifully drawn. So
that's a beautiful strip right there. And it's funny, you love seeing a clean skin, but you love kind of seeing the patina on an artwork that's that old. I mean, it just adds something to it. Yeah, that's gorgeous. Man.
Well, the cool thing is too, comic books got me into my interest in original art, of
Mm-hmm.
course. But getting into strip art has done the reverse thing. I've actually gone back and started buying these master collections and reading strip art. So it's had the opposite effect. The art has taken me to the strips, the books now, where comic books took me to original art. It's kind of going full circle on the whole thing. And if you get the Tearing Apart's Master Collection, you'll be hooked. It's amazing.
I do not have it. I hate to say, but yeah, I mean, I should, because I love the work. I mean, I could just look at the pictures and not even read the words, and I'd be so happy. Because I mean, again, I love that era of comic strips, and a Macro Boy. I mean, I guess your collection would not be complete without. Is this the only Macro Boy that you have?
It is. And Berkey had a few of these.
Mm-hmm.
And he always prices them around the same price range, pretty reasonably priced. And they're Sundays, so they're really nice large strips with a lot of detail. I just like this one because it had a little bit of a sci-fi element going on with the fire creature on the top there. I thought was really his approach to drawing that creature. I thought was really cool.
Yeah. Now I've seen a few Roboy strips over at Berkey's house. He had a
And
stack,
and then the
or it
fourth
might have been
panel,
more like that. But
the fourth panel with Flash running with the pistol there is like classic Flash Gordon imagery.
mhm.
So I mean, that's just good stuff. But I wanted an example. I've always liked Boys art. I mean, of course, this goes back to quality comics and you know the even the Fawcett stuff he did. The Captain Marvel Junior covers and things like that.
I love this panel. I mean, just the way he's kind of silhouette her on there. It's beautiful. I mean, Roboy,
Yeah.
Mike has said it's so true. I mean, he had such a fine line on, this. It's just gorgeous. And these are pretty large too.
Yeah, they are. And they really are a great value still. These are really an affordable way to get into
Hmm.
collecting strip art. I think they're reasonably priced.
Definitely. You had a question here from Peter Rowe. He wanted to know, how do you keep your strips? Do you keep them in a portfolio? Do you keep them in flat files?
Well, everything's in portfolios now. I was going to frame this stuff, but a few years ago, Mary and I had seriously talked about moving. We even put our house on a market. And I thought, well, before I start framing up art, we better know where we're going to land and what kind of room I'm going to have to display this.
Sure.
We live in an old 1870 Victorian farmhouse that we renovated. We've had it since about 1999. It has a lot of wall space. Well, I say it has a lot of wall space, but it has a lot of windows and doors too. If you're familiar with older farmhouses,
Oh yeah. I grew up in Northeast Ohio.
yeah,
Uh,
so it's got a lot of high 9 foot ceilings, so you could hang some art in here, but we really weren't sure what we were doing, and that's kind of right. The timing was right when I got back into collecting.
mhm.
So I just haven't framed anything up. I do have one piece that's framed, and it's a Johnny Comet strip, but it came archivally framed with archival glass and all that. But that I think it came from Heritage like that. So when
So
I
you had to
got
take
it,
it.
yeah,
Yeah. No, I spent a lot of time in Sharon, PA, right up on the
okay,
border there. Yeah,
yeah,
my
not far.
family, my mom and dad's family from Youngstown area. So Liberty, Sharon, PA, that area. I spent a lot of time in the early 70s through the mid to late 80s. So I know
Well, this
exactly what you're talking about.
this is a was really a hotbed for like golden age collections too to come out of here, like
Mm.
the Bethlehem collection. The Windy City's collection actually came out of Uniontown.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
A lot of people don't know that. It was the Anna Wallace collection, and it literally came out of a tiny little, probably 6 room house, like a bungalow. The guy was a postman, and he was buying comics from the 40s, and just kept like wrapping them in butcher's paper and storing them. And he had like everything, Captain America, like the entire run of Cap, from the Timely era, Human Torch, all the Marvel mysteries, and eventually Gary Colabano got a hold of that collection and dubbed it the Windy City Collection. But it actually came out of Uniontown.
Interesting. Well, here's another great strip signed by Frank.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
that was my first Frazetta, that one there, and I think I bought this off of Albert. I think it was a straight cash deal, and he gets a lot of really cool Frazetta strips in from time to time if you watch his site. But this one interested me because of the car. I like the old shoebox
Oh,
convertible.
sorry.
That's all
Here we
right.
go. Went too far. There we go.
And then I like the portrait too. It's obviously Frank portraying himself as Johnny Comet, and yeah, it's just a cool strip.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that. And a lot of great art has passed through Albert's hands. We're all we are all aware.
Yeah,
No more, and no one more than Marcus, since he's worked with Albert so often.
as a helper or as a buyer.
Oh, as a helper,
Okay.
he's always been in Albert's booth at San Diego, and you know helps him. I'm sure Albert pays him really well to be there too.
Well, they're really kind. Jamie drugged my wife in to the booth and told her to sit down, and they sit down and ate snacks while I spent like another hour in his booth. So
Hmm.
yeah, they're good people.
Definitely.
Oh,
All
I'm
right,
trying
here
to
you
think
go.
if
Hal
you're.
Foster Prince Valiant piece. Wow.
Yeah, I got this from another collector too, and he was selling off. He had a Manara Indian Summer page, and it was a cool page. It was one that you actually could show to the family. It had no nudity or anything on it. It was a nice page, but it didn't have a lot going on. But I always wanted an Indian Summer page, so I told him, "Yeah, I'll take it. Put it on hold." And then I started digging around his site a little more, or his CAF page, and
Hmm.
I noticed this, and I said, "Hey, could we take that one off hold, and I'll buy this one off of you instead?" I looked at many Hal Foster pages over the years, and they are super pricey when you're looking at a full Sunday.
Hmm.
And even if I made the stretch of that commitment, financial commitment to buy a full Sunday, I could find nothing that had good images of Prince Valiant and like kind of summarized what the strip was about. And then when I saw this, I was like, wow, it's a top tier. It has the logo on it. It's got a tournament. It's got a castle. He's on horseback. It's beautifully drawn, and I was like, this would be perfect. And I think it kind of plugged that hole that I wanted to with owning a Foster example.
I, you might have been happy with the Manara, but I mean, come on. Just having this with the Prince Valiant, logo with it. I mean, that second panel is just stunning. The background's gorgeous. Uh, and like you said, it's a financial commitment to go all in on a full Sunday. So
And they're
no,
so large.
right, and you need a flat file at
This
the end of
this
the
is a
day.
really big top tier. I mean, it is big.
Right, it's got to be right because that's, I mean, I don't know, the length would have to be, it's over 20 inches across, right? It's got to be. It's
Yeah,
going to be at least
I don't know if
or
I have
close
that
to
one
it.
handy.
What do we got? CJ says everybody needs to hit the thumbs up, so please do. Everybody who's not done that already, there's enough of you in the chat to hit the thumbs up button for us.
Well,
No, but anyway, congrats. I mean,
thank you.
these are hard to come by, and this is a great example. And you already had a good Monero example, or maybe you just got that afterwards, but still, uh,
Well, yeah, I did, but
all
you know
timing.
what? I wanted to get one of the three titans of the comic art industry, and that is,
Mhm.
Foster, Raymond, and Caniff. You know, upon their shoulders, everything else was formed. Really, I mean, everybody was influenced by these guys.
Yeah. Wow. Uh, let's see. We did look at that, and we have another Frazetta here. Is this with the
Yeah,
cars too?
yeah, I really like the way he draws cars, and I think that's what attracted me to both of these. And this one had a good femme fatale in the center panel.
Yeah.
Raven Rocket is like the opposite of Jane Fargo, which is like his love interest in the comic strip. But Raven Rocket was like a bad girl that actually kind of turns around and becomes a good girl by the end of the sequence. And she appears in about 30 strips. And I think this is a good one because, like I said, it's the start of a race. You get the cars, um, and like I said, they're good figures, nice figure drawings, and kind of cool.
No, it's beautiful.
Yeah, it's hard to believe a 24-year-old already had a skill set like this at his disposal. It just blows my mind. He was so good, even at a young age.
Yeah, I'm just amazed at the car in that last panel. Just the action lines, the speed lines on the wheels, the shadows. I mean, we look at artists like Daniel Warren Johnson today, and they're doing similar kinds of things to show action lines. And Frazetta was doing this stuff so long ago. Yeah, it's gorgeous. I mean, I'd be happy having one strip like this and not needing anything else by Frazetta. I could be like, this is perfect. And like you said, 24. We were at the Frazetta Museum, Kazra and I and Tatiana and even my daughter joined us over there, and it was just amazing. I mean, Kazra pointed out that he really loved the ink work. That he got to see more than like the like the masterpiece paintings that we're all more familiar with. But the ink
Right.
was just so beautiful, and they had like a whole wall of stuff that he did from the time he was like 6 to 22, 23, and it's just amazing, how talented he was at 10, you know,
Oh
to see
yeah, yeah.
how good he was with colored pencils or something, and yeah, no, this is gorgeous.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm a big fan of his ink work. I got to say, I favor it more toward than his paintings,
Mhm.
but and that is not taking anything away from his paintings because they're beautiful, and they were impactful on my perception of comic fantasy art, but like I said, I never even knew that he did this kind of stuff, and when I discovered Johnny Comet, I was like, wow, this is a great strip. And then I found out it only went about a year. And I was thinking, how did he not make it? Was the writing that bad? And I actually bought the book, read the strips, and the writing was really not that bad, but it just seemed like the story didn't have much direction to it. And I think it hurt him. But then it makes you wonder, he wanted to make it in um, syndicated strip art
Mhm.
because these guys were living like millionaires. They were living in mansions, driving exotic sports cars, and comic artists were getting paid hack pay. Like the Jack Kirby's and Joe Simon and the different artists that came. Lou Fine even probably. They really weren't getting paid the big bucks, and these strip artists were making unreal amounts of money living in mansions. So I think how Frazetta, you even wonder what if Frazetta was next in line for Daring the Pirates instead of George Wonder? It just like what could have happened,
Right.
even with that strip. Can you imagine a Dragon Lady by Frank Frazetta? It just makes you wonder. He could have done anything though, really.
Yeah, well, everybody saw, during this period, comics was just just a kind of, I don't know, a stop on the way to going and doing real work in this comic strips because that was where the money was. Um, wow, this one's gorgeous too.
This is an artist, Alden McWilliams,
Yeah.
and this is a case of anybody can get into collected strip art really reasonably. the two examples that I sent to you, these were less than $300 a piece.
Mm-hmm.
And his art is very affordable and it's beautiful. It's very reminiscent. His line work is very reminiscent of Alex Raymond, particularly that last panel. If you look at the pattern clothing on that character,
Oh yeah.
in the inking, the ink lines. I mean, it's very Alex Raymondish. And
Yeah, that's true.
I believe these are from either the late 50s or the early 60s.
And where are you picking up something like this from?
I think is it Koch comic art? Peter
Oh,
Koch?
from Pete? Yeah.
Yeah, he had these, and when they popped up on his site, I bought them immediately. Well, actually, no, I bought one from him. The other strip that's like it's not sequential with this one, but it's the same storyline. I bought it from a gallery in Italy, and they had it, and it was like $250 or something. It wasn't much. I think I paid almost as much to have it shipped over here. Like I think the shipping was almost as much as the strip.
With
So
the tariffs now, yeah, it
yeah,
might even be more.
yeah.
Who knows? Yeah, no, I love it. Even Rich Danny said he loves the scuba divers in the first panel, the silhouettes. I mean, that's fantastic.
Well, it talks about nitrogen narcosis too, which is like a sickness. If you go to too much of a depth, you start hallucinating and you lose your sense of directions. And that's basically what happens with these three divers. They start experiencing this nitrogen narcosis. And if you read the last panel, it's kind of funny. They're like, they'll get more divers. No big deal to these
Dime a
three.
dozen.
So it's kind of
uh,
cold, but they're supposed to be cold-blooded Russian agents. I guess during the Cold War. So
sure.
it's a strip called Davy Jones. I don't think I mentioned that.
Yeah, I've not heard of it before. But Pete Koch is another one. He's been in the hobby for a long time, and even though he usually drops like 12 pieces at a time, they're always interesting. I always have to read through it to see what he puts in there because there's usually something that I'm not familiar with that I end up having to go check and see what it is because he's just he's got a lot and he meters it out really slowly.
He does, yes.
All right, what do we have here?
It's a Walter Molino, and it's from a magazine, I guess it would be, called Grand Hotel, and it was I guess it was more geared more toward women. It's an Italian magazine,
Hmm.
and the artist Walter Molino would take American movie stars and put them in these romantic strips for women. And this particular one is Kim Novak. But his brushwork and the gray tonal work is just beautiful.
I mean, look at the back, the forest behind them in those last two panels. That's
Yeah,
just
yeah, and if
stunning.
you look at what's going on there too, the little girl has a salamander, so she kind of dangles the salamander out in front of her and scares her with it. So it's and then there's the little apple thief in the last panel. So it's like a lot of stuff going on the storyline.
Antoine wants to know what's the size of this.
Let's see. I don't know. I can pull one out though.
Yeah, the figure work is great, Peter. Yeah. And an interesting way to do the panel work too with that line work. Here we go. Let's see.
Okay, so it's a pretty good sizable strip or piece of comic art.
Yeah, like maybe
Um,
14 by 20, something like that.
yeah, probably.
Huh.
And I gotta say, you and Chris Norick are responsible for me getting this piece.
Really? How's that?
You featured Molino on one of your
Did you kind of do a search to find out if there was anything available?
immediately
Wow.
after watching the show, and I was like, wow, that artist is really cool. Then when I found it, I found a couple of pieces. Surprisingly, they were very reasonably priced. And again, I think the only downside was the shipping cost because it came from Italy. I think those came from Italy as well, or
Oh,
Spain maybe.
I remember the piece too that we featured from Molino. That's
Well, the
great.
the, the one you're
Yeah,
looking to show,
I
you'll
just did a
actually be
search on
showing
CAF
another
for it.
one. It's the same characters.
Oh yeah. Oh, that stuff was great. Oh man, now I'm well, that's wonderful. I'm so happy, John. I mean, honestly, that's part of the fun of talking about the art is getting to see artwork that you're not familiar with. And Snork, I think, does a better job than I do. I try to pick an illustrator at least once a week, but Chris tends to find artists that I'm less familiar with. But yeah, I remember that piece specifically. I think the person who had that had a couple pieces that week. I'm just looking at CAF right now. So yeah, anybody who's curious, they should just search for Molino on CAF, and it's on the first page, like the 15th piece down was like the woman on a balcony. That's stunning.
Well, and there's a collector that has a series of these. I think he has 2 or 3 pages, and Marilyn Monroe is the model he used, and I think Tony Curtis is the male counterpart in the strip, and they are so beautiful. But I was really happy to even get this example because if you look at old pictures of Kim Novak, he really captured the way she looked.
Wow. Yeah, well, why don't we switch to the next one? I saw somebody, what was this, Fog City Sam one. Now, do you guys collect any Bill Griffith strips like Zippy, the Pinhead? I don't own anything by Griffith, but yeah, I think the art in Zippy is really, really nice. I mean,
Yeah.
the thing is, you don't see too much of it out there to be
No,
able to
again,
buy.
it's availability, right?
Yeah, I can't say that. I mean, I guess if I went to CAF, I might see something if I did a search. I mean, but yeah, strip wise, yeah, they're hard to come by. You don't see them pop up on any of the auction sites.
Right.
So that'd be the only reason why I don't have one. Fog City. All right, let's see. Oh, so another one here. Yeah, these are great.
Yeah, this is one, this sequence here, you guys actually featured a page that you and Chris are both raving about that is from with these two characters. And I don't know who the collector is, but he posted this thing, and that's what got me interested in looking at Molino art. I thought this guy almost looks like a Don Draper, like a Madman character,
Yeah, definitely.
and I was like, that is so cool. It is so well done.
Hmm. Fog City Sam says there's a new comic art museum opening in Portland, Oregon tomorrow. Uh, Fog City, I guess I'm not familiar with that. Shoot me an email if you don't mind with like a press release, or a link to the news article. My email is bill@comicartfans.com. I'd love to learn more about that one. I'm sure Colin, if you were, he's probably posted about it on CAF and I haven't read it. That's usually how it goes. I haven't seen it, but yeah, I'd love to learn more about it though. It is a war zone right now, Marcus, but comic art comes first. Oh, sweet.
Yeah, this is a Mark Schultz
Yeah,
preliminary,
that's
and
cool.
the reason I bought this, it again very reasonably priced piece of art because it is a prelim and it's loose, but it's tight enough that you can see the musculature in Tarzan. He really he does a good job with it, and I've always liked this Golden Lion storyline with Burroughs, Edgar Rice Burroughs, and it was supposed to be used for a collection that Dark Horse was going to put out of Russ Manning's work on Tarzan, and they were going to use this as a cover, and it just never came to be. So I don't know that Mark ever completed a finished ink drawing of this.
Great composition.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
beautiful.
that's amazing. Yeah, Schultz is another one of those artists. Like, everybody needs to have one. I have yet to ever pick up anything by Mark, but yeah, you see stuff like this, and you're like, why don't I, you need to have one piece. It's like a Bill Stout. You got to have a Bill Stout in your collection. I don't have one. I've never bought it, never owned anything. But it's like two guys you got to have in your collection. Just one example.
Yeah,
Yeah, this is beautiful. Great
yeah.
pre.
He and like Gary Gianni's another one that I just love his work.
All right. Now I think a lot of these. Let me. Come on. If you're gonna own a Peanuts strip, you got to have Snoopy.
All
Not a
right, here,
doghouse. I mean, come on. This is perfect.
true confession here on this one. This brings me back to that story with Barky and OAX.
Mm,
Mary and I, she was looking for something by Schultz, and he had a sketch. He had a sketch of Schroeder playing a piano and Snoopy dancing on it.
I know that one.
Yeah, it was beautiful, and it was pricey too.
Yeah.
But I told her, I said, if you're going to go for something, go for an actual strip. So we didn't buy anything from Berkey at the show, but we did make a pilgrimage to Berkey Mansion up in Ravenna
Uh-huh.
in the summer, and we ended up buying this strip off of him. So he was very gracious, spent some time with us that day and had shown us everything he had available. But this was definitely the strongest strip that he had. It's probably one of the stronger Schultz examples I've seen come on the market in a while. It's got everything you'd want. It's got Snoopy on a doghouse. The second panel where they're like nose to nose is killer. And then it's what every pet owner has ever dealt with. If you left the pet, you're going away on vacation. It's like you're trying to figure out what to do with your pet. Who's going to watch it, or you're going to put it, you're going to board it, or what? And this is part of a storyline that actually took place over a week or two back in the late '60s, where Charlie Brown and his family go on vacation, and they leave Snoopy with Lucy and her family. So it's kind of a cool storyline too.
What was the year on this one? I can't make it out.
69, which is
69.
like peak Schultz.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. I mean, this is one of the better examples that I've seen in a while. I mean, it's beautiful. And I definitely did not see this at the Ramita Mansion. I can tell you that.
Well, this is true confession. This is Mary's piece. This is not mine.
All right. Well,
Even
then
though
there's
she's
nothing
saying,
there's nothing that I can say to Mary about coming to OAX, because if this is her piece, she doesn't need anything else. She could just stop right
oh,
there.
okay, Billy, you're not helping my cause. I guess I'm not coming to OAX.
No, well, we got to work something out. We got to find another love for Mary here. But no, that's awesome. I mean, because there's so many strips out there, right? I mean, I think at this past San Diego, Mike might have had, 4 strips probably from like the mid '60s to the late '70s, early '80s, or whatever. But I can picture them, and this is infinitely better than. I won't say all of them put together, but I mean, again, you just get everything that you'd want here out of a strip from Charles Schultz out of Peanuts. It's just amazing.
Yeah, and if the only thing we joke about is if Woodstock was flying in that last panel, just one panel, it would raise the value yet again. Because
Right, that's true. That's the only thing it's missing,
right,
and a dog bowl. But
the dog
but
ball. There you go.
and
Yeah,
you got pretty much everything else. So no, that's
right.
awesome. I mean, Mary did very well,
Yeah.
and I think you're right. I mean, sometimes you can look at a piece like the one that you liked at OAX, and it's cool. It's one of those that oversized sketch kind of piece. Those are really nice, but the published strip is what really gets
Oh,
you.
here I just want to show you too
Hmm?
to give everybody a sense of how large these are. This is the tearing apart. This is how large the. Let me see if I can pull this back.
Well, the
Much
dog bowl did
larger.
make an appearance in the first panel. I didn't even notice that, right in the corner there. It's not a full dog bowl, but close. Yeah, that's amazing.
They're large. They're really large strips, though.
Well, here, let's this was the Salinas that you got from Cool Lines.
And this was the one that got me back into collecting.
Yeah. Well,
I
that middle panel. Oh my God. Look at that.
well, you know what? I never realized this, But these comic strips are just like so self-contained. If you had knew nothing else about the storyline or anything and read this, it's almost like a scene out of a great movie from like the 50s, an old black and white Western.
Mm-hmm.
And, just reading the dialogue, it's so self contained. Like you can just see the characters. You can almost imagine this being acted out. And again, Red Flower makes an appearance in the last panel there.
Yeah, this is, I mean, it's absolutely stunning. The line work in her hat. I mean, just the work in her face. I mean, it's fun because he's doing this. He's pulling the lips out of nothing, right? The eyes out of nothing. He's just putting in some lines in there, and the next thing this isn't like John Byrne drawing a beautiful woman's face. This is just masterful. It's
Yeah, he was so
just
good. So
wow.
underrated, too. And he was an Argentinian artist that they had hired to draw the Cisco Kid. And he did it for 20 years. And like I said, he inked that shirt over and over and over again, the embroidery in that shirt.
Yeah, back to that first panel again. Look at that. It's such, yeah. I can see why this would get you back into it. I mean, it's pretty hard to top a piece like this too. But I mean, when you dive back into the pool, and this is the first piece you go for, uh, and the thing is, you had a strategy too, right? I mean, to pick something up to take the trade for him.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That was the only way I was going to get this piece.
Yeah, but I mean, knowing them, they probably have something that's equally as nice because they tend to not, they tend to keep, they don't give it all away. They
It was
they want
funny
they want
too.
the great examples too.
It was funny too because right before he shipped it, he was saying, "Yeah, I'm going to go get it out of the vault," and then he said, "Yeah, I'm going to take one last look at it." I was like, "Oh, please don't back out of this deal,"
Right.
because I was like, until I had it in my hands, I was like, "Oh, this is one of those that he might say, you know what, forget it. I'm sending your art back."
The deal isn't done until the art is in both parties' hands. That
Right.
that is
Exactly.
for sure.
Exactly.
Over the years, I've heard of many a deal that kind of fell apart for varying reasons. But yeah, you never know, right? You wonder if another collector is going to step in and offer them all cash, and you take, I mean, not just meaning that with Kool Aid, with anybody. I mean, deals
With
fall apart all
anybody.
the time.
Yes. Yes.
So,
Well, no, the reason I say that is because I think this piece meant a lot to him.
hmm
It meant a lot to him, and I think he called it his triple A Salinas example. He said he'll never get a better example if he gives this one up. But like I said, he was willing to do it. He was very gracious about it, and it all worked out for everybody.
hmm Well, congrats.
Thank you.
And here's that other McWilliams you were mentioning.
Yeah,
What
yeah.
was the
This
name of
one
this
came
one?
from Italy, and it's
Oh,
it's part of the same storyline. It's not sequential, but it's the divers again. There's maybe a fresh set of divers that after the other ones had died, they got three more or something.
these were the replacements.
Yeah, I think so. I think if that's sequentially the way it went, yeah. But again, a very inexpensive strip, but beautifully drawn. Just really. So I'm saying anybody that's thinking, well, these are out of my price range. I can't get into strip collecting. No, these Al McWilliams. He did Twin Earths was another strip that he did, and you can find examples of that. The Davy Jones were actually from the I think early to mid '60s. I just like the scuba diving thing with this one.
I do too. Now we have three more pieces to look at, and they're all spectacular. I don't know how that worked out alphabetically, but it did. And this one is. I actually used this as the show graphic before you sent me your photograph because I wanted to get the record of the show out there. I love I love this piece. I mean the top half splash with the inset is so perfect.
Yeah, I think with you, like with you with Hawkman, Kubert Hawkman, with me it was Enemy Ace.
Mm-hmm.
After seeing that artist edition, I was just so blown away. I was like, I'd love to get an enemy ace page someday. And one morning, it was a Sunday morning, I got up early and Berkey had just posted stuff. And I was like, are you kidding me? This thing's still available. So I clicked buy it now pretty much immediately. And the weird thing is, I think he underpriced this one a lot. I hate to say it. Um,
Don't
I
say it to his
remember,
face.
I
He'll get you
remember,
on the next deal.
yeah, I would get me on the next one. I remember Albert having pages from the issue after this one back in 2014, maybe like 11, 12 years ago. And
Mm-hmm.
they were double, at least double what Berkey was asking for this. And that was back then. That was,
Wow.
12 years ago. So I thought it was very reasonably priced. I think it has everything in it I'd want. You got a side view of Von Hammer there in that next to last panel, and then there's somebody pointed out very Alex Tothish, that last panel of
Yeah.
the way the planes are just you kind of have to really study it to realize what you're looking at. That he's flying upside down there, and
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah. No, I mean, this is so beautiful. Man.
Thanks.
Well, again, there's deals to be had sometimes. I mean, at the end of the day, however he got it, he probably was offering it for more than what he got it in trade
Oh
or
yeah, I'm
else.
sure. I'm sure he made
You know what I
money
mean?
on
It's
it.
like sometimes you just get lucky, I mean, but yeah, this is a stunner.
Thanks. Yeah, that's my one and done with Enemy Ace. I
Mm,
really don't need another one now, but I still wouldn't mind having a different, maybe a Sergeant Rock or something. I don't know.
sure. Well, I'm jealous. I would I wouldn't pass up my Hawkman page for this one, but I would buy this one even though the war stories aren't really my thing. But again, if you're for a work of art, bam, that's about as good as you're gonna get there.
Yeah, there's a lot of Franklin Booth influence, I think, in the clouds.
Oh, and the clouds for sure. Yep.
Yeah, and Wrightson obviously used that
I
technique.
was just gonna say the same thing. Wrightson and
Yeah,
the werewolf stories. I mean, and even in the Frankenstein plates, he uses this kind of stuff all the time.
yeah,
But
great,
boy, oh boy,
great
man,
inking technique. Kubert was amazing. He was just unreal. The way
yeah.
the guy inked with such freedom. Large patches of ink and just amazing. And at the time to, configure all those little warplanes, and probably a lot of thought went into the flight pattern, the way they're flying into each other and everything. It's crazy.
Mm-hmm. Well, here we go. We had it. We got one. We got one example from Men in Tights. Right here, we get some.
That is it. That is like I rarely collect superhero art anymore,
Mhm.
but this piece came up for sale and it struck a chord with me immediately. Number one, it's the cover of this book,
Mhm.
137, but almost an inverse of it. The beast is jumping away from you as opposed to jumping towards you. But it's all the same characters. It's all the same action, the floating mines. And it is one of the earlier Blue Furry Beast appearances. And the big thing is, this is the first time "Oh My Stars and Garters" is uttered.
That's
So,
funny.
and he repeats that obviously hundreds and hundreds of times throughout all of his Avenger appearances and X-Men, and Englehart did this. And I don't know if you're familiar with like his early work. He started on Amazing Adventures doing the Beast, and then he went to a very successful run on Captain America, where they brought back the '50s Cap and gave Cap that super strength, and he fought the Serpent Squad and all that during the '70s. And then he went from that to the Avengers. They gave him this title, and I think he felt a loyalty to the Beast character because the X-Men were basically kind of in limbo at this time. Well, maybe not. Maybe '94 would come out right around this time. But they were looking for something to do with the Beast, the Blue Furry Beast, and I think Englehart said, "Well, let me take and run with this." And I think more importantly, if you read those amazing adventure stories, the Beast has a pretty dry personality. So it's almost like when Englehart got a hold of this, he gave the Beast this goofy personality, this wisecracking, like he mutated further with his personality as well.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of a cool thing. So this is a really super nostalgic page for me. I bought this book off a spinner rack back in the 70s, 75 or whatever.
Well, it's beautiful.
Thanks.
I think, let me see here. Yep, here we go. You get a Carol Day strip, and these are high in demand these days, of course. And this one's beautiful, just like most Wright pages or strips. All three panels are perfect, and I mean, I don't know. We've looked at a lot of great examples, Snork and I, over the last few years. I mean, we pick, they're hard to pass up, when you almost any of them. But this is gorgeous. I love how the blacks are handled between the two characters in the first panel. She's exquisite in the center panel. That's the narrowest one of all three. I mean, it's so well done. I I honestly, I've got to get one. To me,
Yeah,
it's
you
like these are
should.
the hottest things on the market right now. Given the work that Kalaki, has put into just really just making everybody aware about the Carol Day strip. Uh, I think they're just going to continue to go up in value, and it's just going to be harder to get them. So you got to
Well,
get
this
your
is
example
another
while
one
you
of
can.
Mary's strips.
Is it?
It is. She actually has
Dang.
Bill. She actually has about a dozen Carol Days,
Ah.
and
Good for her. She should have
this
her
is
own CAF gallery, John.
well. That's what we're trying to decide. Does she want her own calf gallery, or do I put a Mary room in mine?
Right,
So
right.
um, this is
Oh
a
my.
really early one. This is from Charles Logan, which is the very first Carol Day storyline. So this is the 67th strip that he did. So it's early in a run. Yeah, it is beautiful. A photographer collector named Eric Flogney actually had this for sale, and I believe he lives in, I think, France. Um, he, I had contacted him. He had two of them for sale, and he was super to deal with, and we ended up getting it off of him. And she's had it for about a year and a half now, but yeah, there's still an interesting Carol Day. We bought all the hardcovers and the softcover books that the Slingsby brothers have put out.
Yeah, that's a labor of love that those guys have put into those books. I mean, they did their best to, get all that material together. It took them a long time, but the results are fantastic. I mean, yeah. I again, it's one of those things. It's like until they did the call out for it, it was like, to me, it was under the radar. I felt like I really hadn't seen anything by Wright up until that moment when they were looking for it. And even when they were first trying to collect the strips for that, it didn't really hit home how great they were. I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And but then when it just like it was like a year and a half after they started doing the search, when I was like, it really hit me like, dang, this stuff is great. And I don't know. It's tough when you feel like you missed the boat and you didn't see something that was so wonderful that was out there. But I think that at the end of the day, there is a lot of artwork, like you were saying about the $300 artwork from the McWilliams, that you just don't even know even existed, right? And
Right.
so many rabbit holes you can go down. You can look at like the European sci-fi painted covers that Marcus Rohrwild brought to OAX last year, that kind of stuff. A lot of comic book collectors who were there picked those up because just you don't know what you don't know. There's so much material out there
Right.
that speaks to you, that you don't know what is going to be the next thing that you find that you want to put in your collection. And Wright was one of those people who, I mean, I've been collecting forever. I mean, I've been looking at CAF for the last 20, up until the time Kalaki started, like 20 years of looking at CAF, and never sunk in. That you need to own something by right. So there's just something like that out there for all of us. At any moment, you're going to find something that turns you on, that you realize is, speaks to you, and you got to put in your collection. But I'm so happy it's Mary.
Well, I'm glad she's supportive and she's taken an interest in a hobby too. I think there's probably a lot of collectors that wish their significant other had an interest in comic art, or at least a respect for it, And Mary's always she's had a good artist. She even worked as an art curator at one point in her career, and so she's always had an appreciation for art, and it's really great. Like I said, she's been really supportive of me collecting as well. There were times when obviously, we didn't have the resources to even think about buying art. You're
Mhm.
raising a family, and you know how that is. I mean,
Oh
you go
yeah,
through life, and it's kind of, you do what you got to do. I just want to mention one more thing.
sure.
There's this book. It's called Cartoon County, and it came out in 2017. And it is an amazing read. Everybody I've ever recommended this book to has loved it. It's by Colin Murphy, who was John Colin Murphy's son.
Yeah.
And he was actually the editor for Vanity Fair and also for The Atlantic. And he wrote this book about his life growing up in Connecticut, where there was this one county. Let me see if I can see where. It's called Fairfield County, Connecticut. And it's in southwestern Connecticut. And at one time, there were over 100 artists, comic strip artists, gag artists that lived in this one county in Connecticut. And it was because of the proximity to the train station and getting into New York. They would deliver
Oh,
their art, they'd take our briefcases, do their drawings, jump on a train and take it into the city and deliver the art. And Alex Raymond actually lived there. And Frank, who's the artist that did Blondie? I'm trying to think of who. Oh no, it was Stan Drake. Stan Drake, who he lived there, and Alex Raymond, and that's the famous story with the Stan Drake getting the new Corvette, and Alex Raymond wanting to drive it, and it starts raining, and they have the top down, and they go off the road and hit a tree, and Alex Raymond's killed,
oh,
instantly. That happened in 1956, and they talk about it in the book briefly, but then there was just so much. He goes into each cartoonist and how they were like friends, and like they were all pretty wealthy too, living in this community. But it was almost like a utopia for cartoonists in the 50s and 60s. And there some of the stories are just so funny. He talks about in it that his family, there were like 8 kids in it, and they made sandwiches like for a whole year and would freeze them in the basement freezer and then get them out as they needed them. And like stories like that. And they said that he went on vacation with his father, John Colin Murphy, to Ireland, and they ran out of traveler's checks. So he actually got paper and drew traveler's checks, and they accepted them, which is amazing. I mean, like some of the humor that comes out of the book, but it's a great read. I highly recommend it. It'll make you want to at least explore strip art a little more, I think, too. It's what really lit my fire after I read that book.
I don't know where, I've heard about that the group of artists from and I don't know why. It was like a deja vu when you were telling me about that, and I don't know where I've either read that or another collector talked to me about that at some point in the past. But I put the link to the book Cartoon County in the chat for people who are interested. I'm gonna pick that up because
You can get the hardback for like $20. It
hmm
came out in 2017. It's a beautiful book and beautifully illustrated. I recommended it to a friend who's an art professor, and he said he read it twice already. I mean, he enjoyed it that much. I know I took it on vacation, and Mary told me to put it down. I'm being rude because I read it like my whole vacation.
uh
So I mean, it's a really good read. I think you'd enjoy it.
no, I'm gonna pick it up when we're done here. Honestly, I want to. So cool. Any other books you want to recommend, John, before we sign off tonight?
The Strange Death of Alex Raymond. That's a cool book to look
That
at.
is a classic. And I've not read that one either, but everyone tells me I have to read that, and
Barry Smith's Monsters is
mm-hmm.
amazing.
Yeah.
Love that book. So yeah, and I highly recommend the Master Collection or buy some used Caniff and read Tearing Apart. I think it's one of the greatest contributions to the form.
Well, man, John, I knew this was going to be fun. I always had
cool.
talking with you. A few times we've gotten to see each other in person, but I'm glad we were able to make this work out. I know you have a busy schedule, or have had a busy schedule of late, but no, this is great. And we'll miss you at OAX, but obviously you guys are more than welcome to come down whenever you want. I mean, it's just fun getting everybody together, and yeah, I hope you guys have a great wherever you go. It's going to be a great trip. I'm certain of that. But boy, yeah, but tell Mary that I suggested that she does need her own CAF, or at the very least she needs her own corner in your CAF gallery dedicated to her collection.
Yeah, she has a nice sequence of strips with Chris Flackey just posted a beautiful piece tonight with a character that was based on David Wright's son's girlfriend that he used as a model. And that character appears all through this sequence that Mary has. It's this Maggie, I can't think of what her last name is, but it was his real life girlfriend that he used as a model. And she's got like an Elizabeth Taylor look to her, young Elizabeth Taylor look. And it's the Shadow of Suspicion storyline. Mary actually liked that storyline and got a bunch of strips from it.
Oh, man, I'll tell you, Kalacki's been posting so much good stuff of late.
Oh, that's a beauty there. I just noticed that tonight. He put that one up. I commented.
Which one is it?
Is it a Schweppes or something?
A Schweppes ad. Yeah. There it is.
Look at the detail in that.
That's
beautiful.
Yeah, my goodness. You can see the last three pieces that Chris has put into his CAF gallery. Yeah. Anytime Chris, I mean, I can feature anything that Chris posts, basically. He picks up the best of the examples that are out there from whatever he chooses to buy.
Yeah, he's one of the guys I definitely watch. So
yeah. Wow. All right, John. Well, listen, I'm gonna call it a night, but this was a lot of fun. And I'm really glad we did this. And again, my life is richer because of knowing you. I have that Thor hammer now that sits on the mantle, in my house. I get to look at it every day. It's right next to the Silver Surfer painting that I bought from Mike Allred at the first OAX, and we've taken the hammer to OAX each year. I threatened to use it as a gavel during the auction, although we haven't done it yet. But thank you for that, and just thank you for being a friend. I mean, it's been a really a good pleasure, getting to meet you and know you and get to learn more about your collection. And happy 40th anniversary.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
All right, well, everybody in the chat, we'll be back at it again tomorrow night. But thank you for hanging out with us this evening, and I hope you have a wonderful evening. We'll see you again soon. Good night, everybody.